Thank you for choosing American Pest CEUs. Hi, I'm Sean Reeves. I'm an Associate Certified Entomologist with American Pest CEUs. I've been in the pest management industry since 1999, and I'll be your instructor for today's course. Today's course was compiled by Jack Launius, who has served in the pest management industry since 1990. Guidance on Chapter 85. Summary of pesticide prohibition, requirements, and pesticide alternatives regarding schools and daycare centers in New York State. In May 2010, New York State enacted Chapter 85 of the Laws of 2010, Chapter 85, a new law containing limitations regarding pesticide use on playing fields and playgrounds at schools and daycare centers. This guidance is intended to help schools and daycare centers comply with the new law by providing information on its requirements and on allowable alternatives to pesticides for grounds maintenance. A. What the new law requires. Amendments to existing laws and identification of involved New York State agencies. Under Chapter 85, new requirements were added to the State Education Law, SEL, and the Social Services Law, SSL. The State Education Department, SED, is responsible for administering the sections of the SEL added by Chapter 85, and the State Office of Children and Family Services, OCFS, is responsible for administering the new sections of the SSL. Also, a requirement was added to the Environmental Conservation Law, ECL, for the State Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, to develop this guidance. Chapter 85 is summarized in the remainder of this section of the guidance. Chapter 85 is summarized in the remainder of this section of the guidance. DEC's role in the implementation of the new requirements is limited to issuing this guidance and to being one of the entities authorized to make determinations regarding emergency pesticide applications. Guidance. As required under Chapter 85, DEC developed this guidance in consultation with the State Department of Health, State DOH, and the SED. DEC also consulted OCFS. Pesticide prohibition and exceptions. School and daycare centers are prohibited from using pesticides on playgrounds, includes playground equipment, turf, and athletic or playing fields. The prohibition does not apply to indoor use of pesticides or pesticides applications to buildings or structures, e.g., school buildings, garages. If you have any questions about whether a portion of grounds are subject to the law, contact SED or OCFS. In general, pesticide covers a broad range of products, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, and others. The new law specifies that pesticide has the same meaning as under Section 33-0101.35 of the ECL1. However, under the new law, pesticide does not include 6 types of pesticide products which can be applied on playgrounds, turf, and athletic or playing fields at schools and daycare centers. For details about these exceptions, see Section C, which pesticides are allowed. Note, under a separate new law, Chapter 205 of the Laws of 2010, fertilizer use restrictions become effective January 1st, 2012. Please see Attention section at the end of this guidance. Emergency pesticide applications. An exemption from the pesticide prohibition is provided for emergency applications which may be made only as determined by entities specified in the new law, e.g. school boards and certain state agencies. For further information, see Section D, Emergency Determinations. Who must comply? The new requirements apply to schools and daycare centers as defined in the SEL and the SSL. These encompass public school districts, including the New York City, NYC, Department of Education, non-public schools, boards of cooperative education, BOCES, and child and Head Start daycare centers. The law also applies to a school or daycare center located at a college or university. The law does not apply to family daycare centers, group family daycare centers, school-age child care programs, daycare centers in the 5 boroughs of NYC. To find out if this new law applies to a specific school or daycare center, contact SCD or OCFS as applicable. Pesticide application requirements. Schools and daycare centers must continue to comply with previously existing requirements when applying pesticides, including when applying those pesticides accepted from the prohibition in Chapter 85. Section C, which pesticides are allowed, and the attention at the end of this guidance provide a summary of existing state requirements regarding pesticide use and pesticide application notification. B. How to maintain child-safe playing fields and turf without pesticides. Managing grounds with alternatives to pesticides. Many schools and daycare centers already care for their grounds without the use of conventional pesticides. Others, however, may be making the shift away from pesticides for the first time. Depending on their current practices, schools and daycare centers may only need to fine-tune their methods, or they may need to learn a new, systematic approach to sustainable grounds maintenance through alternatives to pesticides. Training in alternative methods of grounds management could help those with less experience successfully make the transition. General guidance on pesticide alternatives and additional resources. There are a number of things to consider when managing grounds without pesticides, ranging from familiarity with the grounds and potential trouble spots to soil and plant health. Because the steps taken for grounds management are specific to each school or daycare center, this guidance is necessarily intended as a starting point rather than a handbook to address every situation at schools and daycare centers. Broad tips and concepts. The right combination of alternatives to pesticides to prevent and manage pesticide infestations and for maintaining healthy, resilient grounds is specific to each school and daycare center. General guidance on pesticide alternatives, proper grounds management, baseline concepts. Look at the big picture. Examine the whole outdoor system. Walk around the site and get an overall understanding of the maintenance needs and where steps should be taken to ensure that it is healthy, able to withstand pest and environmental stresses. Be aware of all possible sources of pest infestations, including dumpsters and recycling containers, and ensure that they are clean and well maintained. Check for these conditions. Take note of the areas and site characteristics that already have or are prone to pest or disease problems for plants, turf, and soil. The following are examples of important conditions to check for: overall health of turf or plants, existing pests, insects, weeds, etc., and disease infestations or areas that appear to have pest or disease-prone conditions. Identify any existing pest/disease to choose proper management method. Make a response plan. Consider whether a certain level of weeds and pests can be acceptable and tolerated at the school or daycare centers. Decide which areas of the grounds need special attention. Maintain soil health conditions. Keep soils well drained, properly watered, aerated, and high in organic matter. A variety of soil aeration tools can be found in garden catalogs and supply stores. Organic matter can be enhanced by adding compost or leaving grass clippings on the lawn after cutting. Adding organic matter will help with drainage as well as soil fertility. Better drainage in heavy clay soils can also be achieved by adding sand or lighter, loamy soil. Ask at a garden supply store for these materials. pH. Check for a healthy pH. pH should be close to 7, which is neutral. Soil testing will help determine pH and if nutrient deficiencies exist. A link to Cornell Cooperative Extension Soil Testing Service is provided below. Soil pH quantifies the acidity. Soil pH quantifies the acidity or alkalinity of soil on a scale from 0 to 14, with 7 being neutral. Values below 7 mean the soil is acidic, and values above 7 include alkalinity. This scale measures the concentration of hydrogen ions, H, in the soil. The higher the hydrogen ion concentration, the lower the pH, more acidic. Most garden soils range between pH 4 acidic and 9 alkaline, with a slightly acidic to neutral range about 6 to 7 being ideal for most plants. Why soil pH matters. Soil pH is considered a master variable because it influences several critical factors affecting plant growth. Nutrient availability. Different nutrients dissolve better at specific pH levels. For example, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are generally most available near neutral pH, while micronutrients like iron and manganese become more soluble in acidic soils. Incorrect pH can lock out essential nutrients, causing deficiencies despite their presence in the soil. Soil microbial activity. Beneficial microorganisms that decompose organic matter and cycle nutrients tend to thrive in slightly acidic to neutral soils. Extreme pH values, too acidic or too alkaline, can inhibit these microbes. How to adjust soil pH? If the soil pH is not suitable for your plants, you can modify it gradually. To raise pH, make soil more alkaline, apply garden lime, ground limestone, dolomite lime for magnesium, or wood ash. These amendments neutralize acidity over time. To lower pH, make soil more acidic. Use element sulfur, aluminum sulfate, or ammonium sulfate fertilizers. Organic matter like peat moss can also acidify soil slowly. Soil amendments. Consider whether soil amendments, such as compost or fertilizer, are needed and which are appropriate for site conditions. pH and other soil conditions can be adjusted by adding the appropriate compost, fertilizer, or lime available from gardening catalogs and supply stores. See the website resource below for soil testing. Select the right turf and plants. Select turf and plant varieties and/or mixes that are well adapted to the site, such as soil type and sun/shade characteristics and climate. To the extent possible, select disease and insect-resistant varieties. Web resources for turf and plant selection are shown below. Maintain healthy turf and plants. Manage turf and plants to create healthy conditions that prevent pest and plant diseases. Examples of cultural management practices include: remove diseased plants and debris from the grounds. Keep grass longer, generally at least 3 inches, to promote a healthy root structure that can outcompete weeds. Keep mower blades sharp to avoid damaging grass. Damage increases its vulnerability to diseases, insects, and weeds. As a general guide, follow the 1/3 rule. Mow often enough so that no more than 1/3 of the length of the grass blades is removed at any one time. For example, if you maintain a turf-type tall fescue lawn at 2 inches, mow it when the grass height reaches 3 inches. With few exceptions, it is actually best to leave the clippings on the lawn after mowing. This practice, termed grass cycling, is growing in popularity not only for healthy lawns, but reducing waste going to landfills. Grass cycling can be practiced on any healthy lawn as long as the turf is properly managed. Unfortunately, many people treat a lawn as if it were a crop, overwatering and over-fertilizing it to encourage maximum growth, and then harvesting the crop by bagging the grass clippings and transporting them to a landfill. Successful grass cycling requires proper mowing. Cut the grass when the leaf surface is dry, keep your mower blade sharp, and follow the 1/3 rule. With frequent mowing, you will have short clippings that will not cover the grass surface if left on the lawn and will quickly decompose. In a field plot study, Starr and DeRue 1981, impacts of clipping management were examined. Test plots with return clippings had more vigorous growth. The average daily rate of growth was 60% greater for the plots with clippings returned. Soil nitrogen in the first 10 centimeters was greater for the plots with clippings returned. Another study, Kopp and Gilliard 2002, found that returning clippings to the lawn improved the growth and quality of turf grass and reduced the need for nitrogen fertilization by as much as 50%. Thatch is a visible, spongy layer found just below the grass blades, but above the soil surface. It is made up mostly of fibrous plant tissues, including crowns, stems, shoots, and roots from previous growth cycles. Grass clippings contribute very little to thatch because they break down quickly if the lawn is mowed properly. A thin layer of thatch, up to about 1/2 inch, is beneficial for turf health. It cushions the turf against foot traffic, reduces soil temperature extremes, helps retain soil moisture, and improves resilience to wear. The network of pores in thatch also facilitates water drainage and gas exchange between soil and atmosphere. When thatch becomes a problem, excessive thatch forms when the production of organic material outpaces its decomposition, often because of over-fertilization, especially too much nitrogen, excessive or frequent watering, soil compaction, and poor aeration. Imbalanced soil pH that limits microorganisms that break down organic matter. Use of pesticides or fungicides that reduce beneficial soil organisms. Some turfgrass species naturally produce more thatch due to their growth traits and lignin content. When the thatch layer exceeds about 1/2 inch in thickness, it can become hydrophobic, repelling water, causing irrigation or rainfall to run off instead of penetrating the soil. This creates dry spots and can lead to shallow root systems. Thick thatch layers also foster pest infestation and fungal diseases, reduce the effectiveness of fertilizers and lawn treatments, and contribute to soil compaction and poor aeration. How to identify thatch? You can detect thatch by cutting a small wedge of turf and measuring the brown, spongy layer between the green grass blades and the soil. Walking on thick thatch often causes a spongy or springy feeling. Lawns with too much thatch might show poor water absorption, stunted growth, and pest problems. Managing and preventing excessive thatch. Proper lawn care can help keep thatch in balance. Mow properly, follow the 1/3 rule, cut no more than 1/3 of grass blade at a time to minimize excessive stem and root tissue. Water deeply but infrequently to encourage deep root growth. Apply fertilizer judiciously, avoiding over-fertilization. Aerate the soil regularly with core aeration to reduce compaction and stimulate beneficial microbes. Dethatch when necessary, using specialized equipment like dethatching rakes, power rakes, or vertical mowers, verticutters. The best time to dethatch depends on the grass type, but is usually during active growth periods, spring or fall for cool season grasses, late spring or early summer for warm season grasses. Improve soil conditions to promote microbial activity, such as maintaining proper pH and organic matter content. Thatch buildup happens gradually over years, so consistent maintenance is key. If thatch is excessive, over 1 inch, it may require multiple dethatching treatments and careful recovery practices like overseeding, fertilizing lightly, and adequate watering. As you can see in the image here, we have thatch with 1 inch or more, we have thatch 1/2 inch or less, or, as you can see, healthy grass or unhealthy grass. Enhanced water retention. Removing thatch can improve water penetration into the soil, which reduces runoff and increases the soil's water retention capacity. This can be particularly beneficial during dry periods, helping to keep a lawn green and healthy. Improved appearance. A well-maintained lawn with a thick layer of thatch can look more attractive and well-groomed, enhancing a property's curb appeal. Enhanced water retention. Removing thatch can improve water penetration into the soil, which reduces runoff and increases the soil's water retention capacity. This can be particularly beneficial during dry periods, helping to keep a lawn green and healthy. Aeration. If a lawn is heavily thatched, you should consider aerating it. Aeration is best done after thatching and before fertilizing and seeding to ensure the nutrients reach the roots. Next are some additional reasons to aerate turf. Why aerate a lawn? Lawn aeration counteracts the soil compaction that can happen during the year. Pets and people walking across your lawn can tamp the soil, making it hard and impenetrable. Heavy clay soils also clump and become hard barriers that constrain grass growth. By breaking up your topsoil and even a couple of inches of dirt below the topsoil, you give the lawn a better growth environment with better drainage. A lawn soil can become compacted from foot traffic and heavy rainfall, so consider aerating a lawn at least once per year so the soil becomes loose and easy to grow in. Aerate for weed and insect resistance. Core aeration is good for roots. Aerating turf will help water, air, and nutrients reach the grass roots, improving growth, and therefore stopping weeds from spreading. In addition, the insects you want in your lawn, like worms, will thrive thanks to aeration, while other insect infestations, like chinch bugs, will be kept at bay if you break down their environment. Aerate for water savings and drought protection. If the soil is hard and compacted, water will pool on the lawn, and the transfer of oxygen and nutrients into the soil will be diminished. Aerating relieves compaction in a lawn and improves the penetration of air, water, and nutrients for a healthier soil. Because lawn aeration can lightly damage the grass, time the project for the middle of the grass's peak growing season so it can heal itself and take advantage of the newly loosened soil. Aerate the lawn in early spring or mid-autumn for cool season grasses and late spring for warm season grasses. Spread new grass seed each year to cover bare patches and to crowd out weeds in established areas. After aeration is a good time for seeding. Revisit the grounds frequently to check that the methods used are improving areas of concern and adjust management techniques accordingly. Web resources for cultural practices are at the site shown below. Sources for more information and training opportunities on managing grounds with alternatives to pesticides. Numerous training opportunities and informational resources are available to help school grounds managers and daycare center operators with problem-specific questions and to provide more detailed, step-by-step instructions for grounds management without pesticides. Next is a sampling of online resources and suggested titles of books and manuals. Information can also be found in the garden section of a local library or by contacting Cornell Cooperative Extension or the Master Gardener Program. Online resources. See the web pages below for additional links to informational and training resources. We'll give you a quick moment to see these. Cooperative Extension, a resource for assistance with insect, weed, and disease identification, and appropriate turf and optimal turfgrass culture and management, including the most appropriate turf and plant varieties, including master gardeners in many counties. Contact the local extension office. See list at the link below. Suggested publications. Listed below are a few of the many available publications on grounds management. Managing Healthy Sports Fields, a guide to using organic materials for low maintenance and chemical-free playing fields by Paul D. Sachs, John Wiley and Sons, Incorporated, 2004. ISBN 0-471-47269-7, cloth. Another one is the Organic Lawn Care Manual, a natural, low-maintenance system for a beautiful, safe lawn, by Paul Tuckey, Story Publishing, LLC, 2007, ISBN 978-1-58017-655-2 hardcover, ISBN 978-1-58017-649-1 paperback. Another one would be the Rodale Book of Composting, Easy Methods for Every Gardener, by Deborah L. Martin and Grace Gershony, editors. Rodale Press, 1992. ISBN 0-87857-990-7 hardcover, 0-87857-991-5 paperback. Note: prohibited pesticides could be referenced on internet sites or in resources consulted by schools, daycare centers, and others. Prohibited pesticides cannot be used at schools and daycare centers in New York State, even if referenced in resources, including those listed above. Therefore, when consulting these or any other resources about grounds maintenance options, schools and daycare centers should focus on information about pesticides alternatives and soil, plant, and turf care. C. Which pesticides are allowed? Establishing healthy grounds is the best way to prevent pest problems. Should the need for pesticides arise, however, the following is a list of types of pesticide products allowed under the new law and information about how to identify them. Antimicrobial products are available in several forms, such as sprays, liquids, and concentrated powders, and contain active ingredients such as bleach. There are only a few antimicrobial products registered for use on artificial turf. Also, although fungi are microbes, this expected category for antimicrobials does not include fungicides used on turf and plants for the purpose of controlling plant diseases. Use examples: antimicrobials are designed to destroy or suppress the growth of microorganisms such as bacteria or viruses, often on inanimate objects and surfaces. Aerosol sprays in 18-ounce cans or smaller can be readily identified by their packaging. As specified in the law, these are only to be used to protect individuals from imminent threat from a stinging or biting insect. Venomous spiders, bees, wasps, and hornets are some examples. These sprays are not meant for long-term pest management. Consult the internet resources under Section B, How to Maintain Child-Safe Playing Fields and Turf Without Pesticides, for ways to remove the sources of the hazards posed by stinging insects, such as covering garbage cans and removing yard waste, which may attract and harbor such pests. Use examples: these aerosols are used to control bees and wasps. Non-volatile insect and rodent baits in tamper-resistant containers are, in general, self-containerized child-proof packages or stations containing pesticidal bait. Depending upon the product, the container can be purchased with the bait in it, or the container can be empty and a certified applicator can fill it with the bait and secure it prior to use. 2. Not allowed under this exception are baits packaged as pellets, granules, treated grain, or any other loose form that can lead to potential exposure to children, non-target organisms, and the environment, or gel baits in syringes that are applied when squeezed. Use examples: bait stations are usually used for rodent, roach, and ant control. Products containing boric acid or disodium, octaborate, tetrahydrate will have those ingredients listed on the label. They are, in general, insecticide products containing these chemicals in powder form. Use examples. Products with these ingredients are used to help control wood-boring insects, ants, and silverfish. Horticultural oils and soaps that do not contain synthetic pesticides or synergists are generally identifiable by reading the label. Make sure the active ingredients listed are limited to paraffinic oil, mineral oil, petroleum oil, citrus oil, or combinations of salts of fatty acids. Most products labeled as horticultural oil, summer oil, dormant oil, or insecticidal soap will not contain synthetic pesticides or synergists and will therefore be allowed. If you are unsure, look for the acronym OMRI on the label. OMRI stands for the Organic Materials Review Institute, and horticultural oils and soaps with that label will meet the law's criteria. Use examples. Such oils and soaps are used, among other purposes, to manage some plant pests, such as aphids, spider mites, and leaf hoppers. Pesticides classified as exempt by U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, are not registered by the EPA because they contain ingredients EPA considers to pose little or no risk. These products are known as minimum risk pesticides or 25B exempt pesticides. Schools and daycare centers considering use of the EPA exempt products should investigate the potential uses, as there is more information than is feasible to include in this guidance. EPA resource listed below. Use examples. Corn gluten meal may be used for managing pre-emergent weeds, e.g. crabgrass and dandelions. Soybean oil may be used on scales, mites, aphids, and other insects. And dried blood is sometimes used as a repellent for deer or rabbits. There is no comprehensive list of EPA minimum risk pesticides, but there are ways to identify them. It may be noted on the label that the product is an EPA minimum risk pesticide, but such an indication is not required. All ingredients in an EPA minimum risk pesticide must be listed on the label by name, and the pesticide can only contain inert ingredients that are minimal risk. An EPA minimum risk pesticide can only contain one or more of the active ingredients listed on the next page. EPA update. EPA is revising its regulations to more clearly describe the active and inert ingredients that are permitted in products eligible for the minimum risk pesticide exemption. EPA is improving the clarity and transparency of the minimum risk exemption by codifying the inert ingredients list and by adding specific chemical identifiers, where available, for all eligible active and inert ingredients. These specific identifiers will make it easier for manufacturers, the public, and federal, state, and tribal inspectors to determine the specific chemical substances that are permitted in minimum risk pesticide products. EPA is also modifying the labeling requirements in the exemption to require products to list ingredients on the label with a designated label display name and to provide the producer's contact information on the product's label. These changes will provide more consistent information for consumers and clearer regulations for producers and will simplify compliance determined by states, tribes, and EPA. Other information: the terms organic or certified organic in reference to the 25B product are unacceptable. A. The use of the USDA organic logo is not acceptable on any labeling. B. Individual ingredients in a 25B product may be listed as grown organically. Proper paperwork may be required to substantiate this claim. The use of the term organic is acceptable when used in connection with one of the following statements: for use in organic production, for use in organic gardening, for use on organic turf, and OMRI listed. Other information: natural. Claims are not allowed if the product indicates synthetic chemicals and those derived synthetically. Ingredients such as, but not limited to, sodium lauryl sulfate, isopropyl myristate, isopropyl alcohol, malic acid, potassium sorbate, citric acid, sodium benzoate, benzoic acid, and xanthan gum are synthetic chemicals and are therefore not considered natural. Claims such as safe or safe around children and pets are acceptable only when accompanied by the qualifier when used as directed. Information on EPA exempt pesticides can be found at the link below. For product label information on registered pesticides listed in this section, and to learn whether a pesticide is registered for use in NYS, please search the following address: the online New York State Pesticide Product Ingredient and Manufacturer System. EPA exempt products, active ingredients. Castor oil, U.S., pharmacopoeia or equivalent, cedar oil, cinnamon, and cinnamon oil, citric acid, citronella and citronella oil, cloves and clove oil, corn gluten meal, corn oil, cottonseed oil, dried blood, eugenol, garlic and garlic oil, geraniol, geranium oil, lauryl sulfate, lemongrass oil, linseed oil, malic acid, mint and mint oil, peppermint and peppermint oil, phenethyl propionate, 2-phenethyl propionate, potassium sorbate, putrescent whole egg solids, rosemary and rosemary oil, sesame, includes ground sesame plant and sesame oil, sodium chloride, common salt, sodium lauryl sulfate, soybean oil, thyme and thyme oil, white pepper, zinc metal strips, consisting solely of zinc metal and impurities. D. Emergency determinations. The purpose of the new law is to minimize the harmful effects of pesticides on children by limiting the use of aesthetic pesticides in sensitive areas such as schools and daycare centers, and develop pesticide alternatives. An exception to the pesticide prohibition is provided in the State Education Law, SEL, and Social Services Law, SSL. Use of a prohibited pesticide is allowed when a determination is made that an emergency application is needed. Schools and daycare centers subject to the law must seek an emergency determination from the appropriate entity. The entities which make such determinations are identified in the SED and SSL.3. The primary entities are county health departments, state DOH, DEC, and, in the case of public schools, requests for determinations, school boards. The DEC, State DOH, SED, and OCFS together, based on their interpretation of Chapter 85, have identified a working framework for emergency determinations so that schools and daycare centers know which entity to contact when seeking an emergency determination to apply a prohibited pesticide. Also included in the framework are the types of emergencies DEC, State DOH, and county health departments will consider. State DOH oversees most county health departments. Framework for identifying the entity a school or daycare center would contact to seek an emergency determination to apply a prohibited pesticide is outlined below, based on whether a public school, non-public school, or daycare center is seeking the determination. Public schools. Each public school must contact its school board to seek an emergency pesticide application determination for any type of situation that may warrant an emergency. The SED has interpreted the SEL to require that the local school boards make all emergency determinations for public schools. Public schools should not contact the state DOH, county health departments, or DEC to seek an emergency pesticide application determination. A school board, as it deliberates, may consult those agencies with relevant questions as well as in-house expertise of its ground managers. Specifically, school boards may contact the county health department or the state DOH to consult on public health related emergency situations, and they may contact the DEC with questions about environmentally related emergency situations. Non-public schools and daycare centers. These entities should contact either the DOH or the DEC depending upon whether the emergency request relates to the need to apply a prohibited pesticide for a public health related matter or an environment related matter as follows. Public health related emergency pesticide application determinations. Non-public schools and daycare centers should contact the DOH, the county health department, state DOH district office in certain counties, or the state DOH's Bureau of Toxic Substance Assessment when a pest issue arises that may warrant an emergency application of a prohibited pesticide to protect public health, e.g., residual larvicide treatments on grounds to control mosquitoes that carry Eastern equine encephalitis virus. The DOH will make determinations for emergency pesticide applications only when a pest poses a significant threat to public health. To contact the DOH about public health related emergency determinations, contact the county health department or applicable district office, telephone number for each county on attached list, or the state DOH, Bureau of Toxic Substance Assessment at 518-402-7820. Environment-related emergency pesticide application determinations. Non-public schools and daycare centers should contact the DEC in writing to seek an emergency determination. When an emergency arises, which would significantly affect the environment, e.g., invasive species management. For the form on which requests are to be made to DEC, see the department website as shown here. To contact DEC about environment-related emergency determinations for non-public schools and daycare centers, contact the DEC Bureau of Pest Management at 402 8788. Use the form at the above link to submit requests to DEC for emergency determinations. Guide for determining when a situation is an emergency. The intent of the new law is to require schools and daycare centers to manage grounds and pests without pesticides. Emergency determinations should only be sought or granted for a one-time pesticide application for a specific situation, which presents a true emergency. To provide guidance on deciding when a situation is not an emergency, the DEC, State DOH, and SCD, in consultation with OCFS, identified the following situations that these state agencies generally would not consider to warrant an emergency pesticide application determination. When the problem can be managed with the allowed products and/or alternative pest management methods, even when it takes time to learn and fully practice pesticide alternatives. For routine or repetitive pest problems can occur on a regular or seasonal basis, but they do not usually rise to the level of a public health or environmental threat that constitutes an emergency, when the pesticide application would be purely aesthetic, non-emergency reasons. Law. E. Where to read the law and ask questions. Where to read the new law. The State Educational Law, SEL, Social Services Law, SSL, and Environmental Conservation Law, ECL, can be read online at the following link. Laws. Schools. See Section 409-K of the SEL. Daycare centers. See Section 390-G of the SSL. To read the requirement for this guidance, see Section 33-0303.7 of the ECL. Questions about the new requirements. For publics and non-public schools, direct questions about the new SEL requirements to the SED, Office of Facilities Planning, at 518-474-3906. For daycare centers, direct questions about the new SSL requirements to the OCFS, Division of Child Care Services, at 518-474-9454. For help with questions about turf and grounds management without pesticides, contact the local cooperative extension office. See list at this link. Questions on this guidance, contact the DEC Bureau of Pest Management at 518-402-8768. Schools and daycare centers, other requirements. Separate from the requirements in Chapter 85, Laws of 2010, there are other new and existing requirements which schools and daycares must be aware of and comply with in regard to grounds maintenance and pest management. A summary of them is included next. New fertilizer use restrictions. Under a separate new law, Chapter 205 of the Laws of 2010, starting January 1st, 2012, new restrictions go into effect regarding the use of phosphorus fertilizers and fertilizers on lawns and non-agricultural turf. As of that date, the use of phosphorus fertilizers, unless establishing a new lawn or a soil test shows phosphorus is needed for growth, and the use of fertilizers between December 1st and April 1st annually. The use of fertilizers is prohibited within 20 feet of any surface water, except where a continuous natural vegetation buffer, at least 10 feet wide, separates lawn and water, Where a spreader guard, deflector shield, or drop spreader is used, then the application may not occur within 3 feet of any surface water. Additionally, fertilizer cannot be used on any impervious surfaces, and if such an application occurs, it must be cleaned immediately and legally applied or placed in an appropriate container. Anyone who applies pesticides to buildings or grounds at schools or daycare centers, including pesticides allowed under the new law, must meet existing pesticide requirements. The following is a summary of these requirements. The definition of a pesticide is contained in Section 33-0101.35 of the ECL. Under that definition, all of the exceptions to the ban listed in Section C, which pesticides are allowed, above are classified by DEC as pesticides and are subject to applicable regulations that relate to pesticide use. Pesticide means A. Any substance or mixture or substances intended for preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating any pest, and B. Any substance or mixture of substances intended for use as a plant regulator, defoliant, or desiccant. Sections 33-0905 and 33-0907 of the ECL and regulated regulatory requirements in 6 NYCRR Part 325 contain pesticide applicator certification and business registration requirements. Under the regulations, certification is not required when using antimicrobials, except when used in cooling towers, exist at some schools, or other processes not present at schools. Pesticide reporting requirements under Section 33-1205 of the ECL apply to all pesticides used, except antimicrobials and EPA-exempt pesticides, also referred to as EPA minimum risk pesticides or 25B pesticides. Pesticide application notification requirements must be met when using pesticides on structures or grounds under Section 409-H of the SEL and Section 390-C of the SSL. When in doubt, check it out. Always read the label first. When dealing with school properties, it's better to be safe than sorry. 20 good reasons to use a vacuum. Vacuums. For interior control of a variety of pests, a vacuum is the first best step. As with any other pest control equipment, there is a variety of types, styles, and sizes. In the current image, you're seeing some of the types of vacuums and styles. Vacuuming can reduce pest infestations instantly and fits in with most IPM programs. Using a vacuum for professional pest control and residential settings offers several benefits, making it an effective component of integrated pest management IPM. Here are some of the key advantages. 1. Immediate removal. Quick action. Vacuums provide instant removal of visible pests such as bedbugs, fleas, spiders, ants, and cockroaches. Egg removal. They can effectively remove pest eggs and larvae, reducing future infestations. 2. Non-chemical approach. Chemical-free. Vacuuming is a safe, non-toxic method ideal for homes with children, pets, or sensitive individuals. Reduce chemical use. It minimizes the need for chemical treatments, promoting a healthier indoor environment. 3. Reduces allergen levels. Allergen reduction. Regular vacuuming can help reduce allergens from pest debris, droppings, and shed skins, improving indoor air quality. 4. Prevention of spread. Containment. Using a vacuum with proper filtration can prevent pests from being scattered and spreading to new areas within the home. Localized treatment. It allows targeted removal of pests in specific areas, preventing broader infestations. Efficient and cost-effective. Labor efficiency. Vacuuming can be faster and less labor-intensive compared to some manual pest removal methods. Cost savings. Reduces the frequency and volume of pesticide applications, leading to cost savings over time. 6. Enhanced inspection. Detailed inspection. Vacuuming often requires a thorough inspection of the area, helping identify hidden infestations and potential entry points. Documentation. Professionals can track the types and numbers of pests removed, aiding in monitoring and managing infestations. Improved hygiene. Sanitation. Regular vacuuming contributes to overall cleanliness and hygiene, reducing pest attractants such as food crumbs and organic debris. Odor control. Helps in removing pest-related odors by eliminating droppings and decomposing pests. 8. Versatility and accessibility. Hard to reach areas. Vacuums with appropriate attachments can reach into cracks, crevices, and other inaccessible areas where pests may hide. Multiple surfaces. Suitable for various surfaces, including carpets, hardwood floors, and upholstery. 9. Environmentally friendly. Eco-friendly. Reduces reliance on chemical pesticides, contributing to environmental conservation and sustainability. Waste management. Proper disposal of vacuum contents ensures pests and their debris are removed from the living environment. 10. Customer satisfaction. Immediate results. Visible reduction in pest numbers provides immediate satisfaction to homeowners. Perception of safety. Clients often appreciate non-chemical approaches, feeling safer in their homes. 11. Flexibility in treatment. Adaptability. Vacuums can be used in conjunction with other pest control methods, providing a flexible approach to managing various pest problems. Seasonal adjustments, especially during seasons when certain pests are more prevalent, offering a timely and adaptive response. 12. Educational tool. Client education. Professionals can demonstrate vacuuming techniques to homeowners, empowering them to maintain pest control between professional visits. Preventative measures. Helps educate clients about the importance of cleanliness and regular maintenance in preventing infestations. 13. Proactive approach. Early intervention. Regular vacuuming can help detect early signs of infestations, allowing for prompt action before problems escalate. Maintenance routine incorporates into a routine maintenance program, helping keep homes consistently free of pests. 14. Support for other methods enhances effectiveness. When combined with baits, traps, and residual insecticides, vacuuming can enhance the overall effectiveness of pest control strategies. Pre-treatment preparation prepares areas for chemical treatments, by removing pests and debris, ensuring better contact and efficacy of applied pesticides. 15. Specialized equipment. HEPA filters. Using vacuums with HEPA filters can trap even the smallest particles, including pest allergens and fine dust, ensuring clean exhaust air. Special attachments. Various attachments can target different pests and surfaces, improving the versatility and effectiveness of the vacuum. 16. Safe for delicate environments. Sensitive areas. Ideal for use in sensitive environments such as hospitals, schools, and nurseries where chemical use may be restricted. Minimal disruption allows for pest control without significant disruption to daily activities, important in residential and commercial settings alike. 17. Enhanced detection. Live capture. Vacuums can capture live pests, allowing for easier identification and monitoring of pest species and populations. Monitoring tools can be part of an integrated monitoring program, helping track pest activity and infestation levels over time. 18. Professional image. Perception of thoroughness. Clients often perceive vacuuming as a thorough and diligent approach, enhancing the professional image of pest control services. Visible effort. The visible action of vacuuming reassures clients that immediate steps are being taken to address their concerns. 19. Integration with technology. Smart vacuums. Advanced vacuums with smart features and data logging can provide detailed records of pest activity, useful for reporting and analysis. Automation. Potential for integrating automated vacuum systems in some settings, offering continuous and consistent pest management. 20. Pest-specific adaptations. Customizable approaches. Techniques and equipment can be tailored to specific pests, such as using different suction levels for different sizes of pests or varying brush types for different surfaces. Focused removal. Effective for targeting pests that are particularly difficult to manage with chemicals alone, such as bedbugs in mattresses and upholstery. Incorporating vacuuming into a pest control strategy provides a comprehensive, flexible, and client-friendly approach to managing pests in schools. It supports overall pest management goals while promoting a healthier and safer living environment. Incorporating vacuuming into professional pest control strategies can enhance overall effectiveness, safety, and customer satisfaction, making it a valuable tool for pest management professionals. Being part of the IPM solution. The IPM approach to pest management differs in several ways from conventional or traditional urban pest control that relies primarily upon pesticide use. First, it is not merely a reaction to a pest problem. It is a process which, when followed, provides effective pest control. Second, it considers threshold levels of pest presence. Third, difference between conventional pest control and the IPM approach is the application of two or more pest management procedures to reduce or limit population levels. Fourth, difference is the pest management involves a truly integrated approach where all pests are considered in the development in the pest management process. Included in this portion of the course is sanitation, mechanical control, cultural control, chemical control, and the evaluation of the effectiveness of your plan. Integrated pest management, the short version, using the least amount of product at the lowest toxicity to control the target pest population. Decision: what products will control the target pest and have the least impact on our environment. The inspection should be an orderly, organized procedure. It should include all areas of the premises, both indoors and outdoors. All levels of the structure should be inspected. Look for areas where the pest has harborage and food. Inspection. The first step in any IPM program is a thorough inspection. There are several reasons for inspecting the premises, including: determine the location of the infestation, determine the extent of the infestation, note damage to the structure or commodities, determine conditions conducive to the infestation, identify harborage areas, identify sanitation deficiencies, identify avenues of possible entry, identify items or factors which would impact program development. Identification. Before an effective integrated pest management program can be developed and implemented, it is necessary to know the pest or pests with which we are dealing. Identification is an integral part of any IPM program. This knowledge enables us to determine what control measures to employ and when, where, and how to employ them. Without a thorough understanding of the pest and its habits, habitat, life cycle, and biology, we cannot be effective. In addition, several states require that any chemical applications performed be for a specific pest and that this pest be listed on the treatment record. Once a pest has been correctly identified, its food preferences, harborage sites, behavioral patterns, biology, habits, potential for damage, and options for control measures may be determined. Mechanical or physical control involves the use of traps, caulks, seals, or barriers to prevent pests from entering, establishing, and living in an undesired location. It may include any or all of the measures listed next. Excluding or pest-proofing pests using barriers, including screens, seals, nets, and caulking. Manually removing pests by vacuuming. Setting traps, including sticky, light, multiple catch, and snap types. The use of heat or cold to destroy pests. Placing monitors in locking boxes will prevent access by children. Cultural control involves manipulation of the pest environment to make it less favorable for the pest to exist. It may also be referred to as habitat modification or environmental alteration. To accomplish this, the customer may have to change some of their normal practices or habits and thus make it harder to the pest populations to become established or to spread. Evaluation of effectiveness. The final step in the integrated pest management process is the evaluation of effectiveness. Follow-up inspections enable the pest management professional to assess and adjust the control measures that have been employed. The use of pheromone traps with lures or baited sticky traps are good tools for follow-up inspections. Bees and other pollinators. Restrict the application of pesticides that are toxic to bees and other pollinators when weeds and flowering plants are in bloom. Pollinators are very important to our environment. From a food standpoint, about 1/3 of the food we eat requires pollination. Do not apply pesticides that are toxic to bees during bloom. Even shade trees and weeds should not be sprayed when blooming. Select the pesticide least harmful to foraging bees. Check the product labels for specific bee hazards. Bees and other pollinators. Selecting the safest formulation. In general, dusts are more hazardous to bees than sprays. Wettable powders are more hazardous to bees than either emulsifiable concentrates or water-soluble formulations. Granular insecticide formulations are generally the least hazardous, while microencapsulated formulations can be quite hazardous. The hazard to the bees increases when the material can be carried back to the hive. Since microencapsulated and dust formulations are picked up with pollen, they are the most dangerous because they can affect the brood as well as other adults fed by the contaminated pollen. A word on PPE: protective clothing and personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment, PPE. The type of protective clothing and equipment needed depends on the job being done and the type of chemical being used. Read the label on the pesticide container carefully and follow all directions concerning necessary protective clothing and equipment. The minimum protective clothing recommended by the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, the National Agricultural Chemical Dealers Association, NACA, and the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, when handling dilute, mixed pesticides, includes a long sleeve shirt, long pants, underwear, chemically resistant gloves, socks, and shoes or boots. When handling concentrates, particularly pesticides with danger or warning labels, a face shield, goggles, or respirator, full face and eye protection, chemical resistant apron, and chemical resistant boots are necessary. Gloves have been shown to reduce pesticide contamination of skin if properly maintained and replaced frequently. Hands should always be protected when working with pesticides. A USDA study showed that applicators handling concentrated pesticides received 85% of their pesticide exposure on their hands. When handling concentrated or highly toxic pesticides, wear gloves made of neoprene, nitrile, or butyl rubber. For most pesticides, nitrile gloves or natural rubber gloves provide the best protection. Always follow the label recommendation. The label may require a specific kind of glove to be worn. Gloves should not be lined with a fabric. The lining is hard to clean if a chemical gets on it. Do not wear cotton or leather gloves. They absorb the pesticide, which provide a continuous source of exposure and can be more hazardous than wearing no gloves at all. Respirators provide protection against inhalation exposure. Pesticides can be inhaled as mist, dust, or vapors. The respiratory tract rapidly and completely absorbs pesticides and should be protected. Wear an approved respiratory device when directed by the label. Follow the label instructions on respiratory protection. Commonly used respirators. Two commonly used types: disposable, cartridge. They should not be used with fumigant gases or in areas with deficient oxygen levels. Dust and mist respirators. Dust and mist respirators are physical filters which only protect against pesticide dust and larger spray droplets. They are not effective against fumigants and the many pesticides which emit vapors. Chemical cartridge respirator. Chemical cartridge respirators are usually designed as a half-face mask which cover the nose and mouth but not the eyes. Therefore, eye protection is required when using them. They have one or two cartridges attached to the face piece. In the cartridge, the inhaled air comes through both a filter pad and an absorbing material such as activated charcoal, which removes most of the pesticide vapors, gases, and particles. Respirator maintenance. As a general rule, a canister, cartridge, or disposable respirator should never be reused, even if used for just a few minutes. These filters are easily replaced, but lungs are not. Remember, a disposable respirator or cartridges should be changed when the manufacturer recommends, if breathing is troublesome, if pesticide odors can be smelled, if the last time it was used is unknown. Storage of respirators shall be in a compartment away from pesticide materials, shall be in a protective container such as a sealable plastic bag or box. Final thoughts. Always read the laws. If you need help understanding the laws, ask for assistance. Always follow label directions. Always err on the side of safety. Congratulations, you have completed the course. Please proceed to the exam to receive your credit.